Thank you. Senator Welch.
Thank you. Director Peters, thank you, and I appreciated your visit that we had some months ago. I wanted to talk about reentry centers. They're incredibly important. Most people who go to prison ultimately get out of prison, and my colleague from Hawaii was mentioning, the reentry centers are extraordinarily helpful for folks to not be repeat offenders. We don't have one in Vermont. My understanding is that we've been told that the Bureau has conducted a market study, and in fact, that study indicates Vermont needs a reentry center, but nothing is available. I certainly think we do need a reentry center. Do you support establishing a reentry center in Vermont?
Thank you, Senator, and I too appreciated our conversation in your office, so thank you. And I do support it, and just as of yesterday, hot off the press, I have good news to report. We have issued an RFP for Burlington, Vermont, to try and get a residential reentry center in your state.
Well, thank you for that news. So tell me what that means specifically.
That means that we're asking for individuals to come forward and respond to that request for proposal and engage in a contract with us. So it's my hope that even discussing it today will encourage people who are listening to apply for that RFP and be willing to run a residential reentry center in Vermont.
Okay, thank you for that news. The other point I want to focus on is the programming to help reduce recidivism. And there's been many studies, as you know, that show programs that offer the largest reduction in recidivism are for secondary and post-secondary education. It's hard, but it's helpful. And studies have shown also that these are very cost-effective. If you have less recidivism, then that's less of a burden on the Bureau of Prisons. And as part of the First Step Act, as you know, again, the Bureau of Prisons is required to introduce evidence-based recidivism reductions for federal inmates. My question is, what percentage of programming has reopened since the height of the COVID pandemic?
Thank you, Senator. I don't know the percentage that is reopened post-COVID, but I can tell you as of September 1st, we had over 110 evidence-based recidivism reduction programs and productive activities. And I know that when I visit our institutions, they're reporting additional expansions and additional ideas. So I know that number will continue to grow.
So could you describe the steps that the Bureau is taking to integrate GED, secondary and post-secondary education into the evidence-based recidivism reduction program?
So we're very proud of our GED program at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and as it relates to secondary education, we're very excited for the expansion of Pell Grants, which Congress approved and became effective in July. So we have been working with our local community community colleges to apply for that Pell Grant status so that they can assist us in expanding our post-secondary efforts under the new expanded Pell Grants.
So could you just explain how the process works for an inmate? I'm an inmate, and I am now in one of your facilities. How is it that I get into, or am encouraged to get into, an education program?
You know, their unit manager and their counselor would work on their case plan and what they're capable of and what their goals are, and then they would hold their hand and walk them through the application process and getting them involved in that GED program or that secondary education program.
Can you just describe what some of the impediments are? Some may be because of the inmates, some may be because of the resources, but what are the impediments to participation in the program?
Readiness for the adults in custody to be academically ready to get through the GED and then academically ready for secondary, post-secondary education. The other impediments are having local resources available, the community colleges, to provide that secondary education. But I believe that the expansion of the Pell Grants is going to help us get over that hurdle as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Welch. Senator Cotton.
Ms. Peters, it came to my attention that members of this committee submitted